All right, welcome to this week's edition of Break the Bank. I'm Jeff DeForest, and good to have you guys with us. Hopefully, maybe you're going against us so far. That might be the thing. After Mike's sensational 5-0 start, they were kind of coming back to the pack a little bit. I think I ended up 3-2. Frank is with us as well. Gentlemen, how are you, Mike? What's
Great,
going on, young man? How are you?
great. Sorry for late start. A little busy, getting ready for a big week. A lot on our plate, and we're going to bounce back.
Look at Frankie. I thought he'd be at the Little Brown Jug, betting the jugheads there, the harness horses. But Frank G, how are you, my friend, out of Philadelphia?
Good defo. I'm from New Jersey, but that's okay, buddy. I don't want to
Oh,
be associated. I don't want to be associated with the Philly boys. I'm sorry.
well, I know you're an Eagles fan, right? No, you're a Jets fan, which is unfortunate
Try to
because
forget about them too.
that was an El Stinkeroo performance. All right, we have week number 2 in the books and week number 3 upon us in the National Football League. We have a lot of college football to discuss, and I have a baseball heartbreak story that you genuinely can appreciate, Mike Jones, because I know you follow this stuff. And as we look like the geezers at Caesars, it might be time to make some adjustments in our betting philosophies because baseball betting the entire game not an easy thing. The dogs are barking, so I'm assuming we're going to get some underdogs working here on the show. The
Sounds like a
mailman
German.
is showing up.
Sounds like a German Shepherd.
All right, here's the way we work it. We've been picking 3 community games. Everybody's been on that. We all got shut out on the University of Miami last week, and they face an interesting matchup this week, which is going to be one of our community games. And then all 3 of us will get involved with a couple of elective choices. And then you can go ahead and fire away on social media and talk about what idiots that you think that we are. But let's get into some observations. I mean, it was a week of some very depends which side you're on. Obviously, I mean, some people were either largely euphoric last week or took some of the most devastating knife in the back beats that they've ever suffered in the National Football League. And I think you and I both were on this game, not as a selection, but actually with some wagering capital involved. And that was the Denver game against the Indianapolis Colts. My God, how badly can you get rhymes with ducked on a game like that where you have the game won, you've covered the point spread, time has expired, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a hanky on the field. They make a call that you are implying, and I didn't get to actually see the play. I didn't have it in the detail that you did. But I come to find out that a 60-yard field goal was missed by the Indianapolis Colts, a 60-yard attempt. They throw a flag for leverage on one of the defensive linemen or the defenders on the Denver Broncos, move the ball forward 15 yards, and then the Colts knocked through a 45-yard field goal. All of a sudden, Daniel Jones goes from being the dreg of New York City to being a big hero in Indianapolis. I think he's got free White Castle for the rest of his life off those 2 wins. People are talking about the Colts being a juggernaut, but to the bettors, I mean, that literally was. I mean, a sword of Damocles landing whoosh, right on the perforated line, the dotted line that was on your neck. What was your feeling about that one? And then there were several other tough beats, including the money line players that had your New York Giants. What were some of your observations about last week's play, Mike?
That particular play made it worse because if you're not watching the game live, you're on NFL Network or maybe the Red Zone. You see the missed field goal, you think you're a winner. You don't see the flag. NFL Network's posting the final score 28-26-0-0, so you think you won, so you walk away. You walk back in the room and you think you see 29-28, and now you want to kill yourself. So basically what happened there was you cannot advance basically your leverage by pushing down on a player, opposing player, whether it be the long snapper or guard, someone. And it looked like the Bronco player did have his hands on the back, but he didn't lift himself up or try to use the leverage to benefit the block. And I think just by pushing down, he got called on it. It was a very unique call. I don't think you see it in most cases. It's what these refs look for, these particular breaking of the rules. And I think it was a call that decided a game that probably shouldn't have been. But if you have the Colts, you're in heaven. If you have the Broncos like you and I, that was just one of these calls that you just have to realize that this is what they do. So they give him another chance from 45, and he makes it. Just frustrating, and that's kind of how it goes when we're dealing with the business we're dealing with.
It's kind of interesting, too. Favorites were prevailing in stark contrast to week number 1 when Frank G, Mr. Under, probably was very excited about everything except the game that he picked on the show that he took the over in. This past week, Frank, it was overs prevailing predominantly. A lot of points were put up on the board.
No, definitely. Actually, at the end of the week, I didn't go back and check and see what how many overs and how many unders came in. That was
You know,
That
the
was a
first,
dominant number. I think,
yeah,
something
yeah,
like, what was it, 12 and
yeah.
12 and 4 or something in that neighborhood, Mike?
Yeah, I
You're a
think the
big.
last three went under, but up until then, I think you might have had only one under. I think you're right. All the 1 o'clock games went over. I mean, it was just, it's just one of these things. It's always like a week to week league. They just, you transition into the adjustment factor, and that's what you see in a lot of these teams. No, who would have thought the Giants would have put up 37 the way they played the first week against Washington? So you're feeling this out as you go. You see that they're connecting on the long ball. You're seeing the offensive lines holding up. So this is what I do when I bet a live bet or a halftime bet and take the over in the second half, which obviously didn't go over to the final 6 minutes. And then they double their output for the game in the final 6 minutes of that game, as exciting as it was. Probably for a Giant fan in a loss was probably the most exciting game I've probably witnessed in 20 years. And yeah, but it's one of these things where the adjustments are big, and you have to kind of look at that. Look at Detroit. As bad as they look in week one, they come out and put up a 52 spot against the Bears in week two. It's kind of, and you think, oh, here comes Ben Johnson into town. Here he is going to come and knows everything about Detroit. Little, they put up a display that they haven't seen numbers like that. So, it's all an adjustment game. I love the Jets play so hard, 500 yards against the Steelers, and then they can't even get a first down against Buffalo. How do you figure that at home? This is what this league does. And then of course we'll talk about the game that we talked about, Jacksonville, which I had on another show. You're getting 3.5. You're fourth and goal at the 5 yard line instead of taking the 3 points to force a team to go. The analytics are telling you now, because the kickoff touchback is at the 35-yard line. Well, they're going to get 65 yards from the end zone anyway. Well, let's make them go, 40, 45, 50 for a tie and take the risk we can make it a 2-score game. As a bettor, you're saying as a Bengals fan, I don't know. I mean, as a Jags fan, we like it. We're going for the win there. As a bettor, you're saying through your 3.5 doesn't hold any water, because if they kick the field goal, you're basically a winner. And now you end up losing the game by 4, and how they play out. So this is the trials and tribulations of gambling, and we went through them the last 2 weeks.
I think I was on a Dilaudid drip for several hours after that ball game. I'm sitting there going, kick the freaking field goal, and of course go up 6. And now there's no way that you can lose to the point spread. And of course they go for it. They fail miserably, and the other team marches down the field. And it still took them a couple of cracks from the goal line to get the ball in. So it was doubling the torture. I don't know which one of these bets was yours, Frank. I'm assuming maybe one of them was. Caesar's Palace got buried by the big bettors. 5 out of 6 of the biggest bets that were laid out at Caesar's Palace ended up in the win column for the bettor, including 220,000 to win 200 on the Eagles, who covered the point spread last week. Another bettor, and this was a wild one too, had 210,000 on the Cincinnati Bengals, and ended up cashing on that ball game where, as you pointed out, Mike, it looked like it was certainly going to be a loss. Somebody had a $160,000 money line parlay on the Cowboys and the Rams. Now, imagine that. I don't know. I mean, it depends what kind of capital you have. I guess if you have that kind of money to throw around, you're probably not laced with anxiety about the 160 going up in smoke. But after Neighbors made that catch, it was impossible. I actually left the place I was watching the game, because we were watching the Dolphins and the Patriots primarily. And I thought the Giants had the game in the bag. And then I got home, and it was like a half hour later, I turned the television on, and they're still playing.
Right.
I'm thinking, well, what did I miss here? And of course, they had a great headline in the New York Post talking about and capsulizing Russell Wilson's performance. It alluded to the great album by Pink Floyd. And the headline on the back page, across the entire back page, was "Dark Side of the Moonball," which he throws that hideous pick at the end of the ball game. And that was that. Now, have you already thrown in the towel, Frank G, on your New York Jets? They get clobbered by Buffalo. And the Dolphins are going to have to travel to Buffalo tomorrow night, maybe to salvage a job of Mike McDaniel, although I don't believe that they will fire Mike McDaniel during the course of the season, because I've stipulated this for some time now. If Stephen Ross would buy a media company, I would want to work for him, because you could have the worst ratings, the worst numbers, no audience to speak of whatsoever that was measurable, and he would give you a 3-year extension after finding out that was the case. It seems like they're probably in tough, the Miami Dolphins, against Buffalo. But what did you make of your New York Jets? Fields now with a concussion, iffy for the upcoming game. Do they have any chance of salvaging anything when they showed a lot of promise in that opening game against Pittsburgh? And maybe that was a bit of an illusion because Pittsburgh subsequently goes out and gets clobbered in week number 2.
I'll be honest with you, Defo. You're not going to want to hear this, but I was betting a lot of horses this Sunday, and I didn't even watch the damn Jet game. But I know that
You didn't miss anything.
Fields is out. You know, they're playing Buffalo. I wasn't expecting a whole hell of a lot. I know Mikey had Buffalo. I wish them the best, but, you know, moving on. I'll watch the Jets when they win a few games. I was paying attention to other stuff.
Doesn't look strong this week. They have to go on the road, Mike, and take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers surprisingly off to a 2-0 start. That was another one of those really tough beats. One of those games that you thought you had in the bag, as they're taking on the Falcons. No, they're taking on the Houston Texans. And the Texans have a 5-point lead with a couple of minutes to go in a ball game. Tampa Bay's got 80 yards to go. Baker Mayfield takes them, converts a 4th down and 14 with a running play. And next thing you know, you're on the losing end of that score also, as Tampa Bay ended up winning that game by a point to go to 2-0 in the season and 2-0 against the spread. Another, dagger right in the heart of the backers who thought they had this game won with the Houston Texans.
Yeah, the thought on that was they had a chance on that 4th down play as a safety came in clean, didn't break down, and was more concerned of laying a hit on Mayfield. He bounces off and gets the extra 15 yards as they're in man coverage. You know, again, one of these games as you keep going down, the great Baker Mayfield, everybody's given up on him. He's been with 4 teams. And little do you know, he's found a little home in Tampa and has got them playing. You know, they have good defense. I think Todd Bowles, very underrated coach, who's never got a fair shake. He's getting a hard look at with Tampa, and I like where Tampa's going. I really do. I think they have a real shot. The thing with this game in particular this week is, I know it's a game we might not pick, but Tyrod Taylor I thought, has always been an efficient quarterback, and just his injuries have derailed him. This might be a spot to really look at the Jets. Or if they're emotional Monday night win, short week for Tampa, Jets go down with no expectations, getting 7, backup quarterback everybody thinks doesn't have a chance. I don't know. I look at the Jets as saying there's a possibility about them this week.
I don't know. Frank doesn't share your same faith. I mean, he's putting Mahoney Pally, instead of even watching this ball game. You didn't even put like one glance at the screen there, Frank.
Oh, the Giants were on. It was a little more entertaining, so I kind of was keeping an eye on that one, to be honest.
No doubt about it. All right.
Once we were down 20-6 at half,
Chalk players were very happy. The favorites prevailed against the point spread predominantly. And then, of course, like I said, you're looking at some of these wagers. Somebody had $198,000 on the Colts. Can you imagine? That guy had to be feeling a little bit of anxiety. And there was a $100,000 bet made on the Patriots, who looked like they were beaten by the Dolphins after that punt return. And sure enough, on the subsequent play, they get a 90-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. And then the last 2 drives by the Miami Dolphins gave further evidence of why Stephen Ross probably needs to take some action and get rid of Mike McDaniel and not only the coaching staff, but the entire front office as well. All right, let's get into our agenda for this week. And we're going to start in the college ranks. We have a huge ball game at Hard Rock Stadium in our hometown, Frankie G. And that's the University of Florida coming in here at 1-2. After beating Long Island University, which we didn't even know had a football program. They beat them 55-0 at the Swamp. They subsequently lose to the University of South Florida. And with that outright win by South Florida, that convinced me that South Florida would easily, in fact, we were unanimously taken down in this one, that South Florida would cover 17.5 in that ball game. Now the Gators come to town. This is one of those rivalry games that everybody talks about. And I know, Mike, you get into the emotional aspect of things and the philosophical standpoint that people, view in ball games sometimes, and bettors maybe ignore now with all of the statistical data that's out there. But the University of Florida coming to Hard Rock Stadium, night game. They're not necessarily going to be badly outnumbered in terms of fans, because there are a lot of Gator fans in South Florida. I thought this line was really short. My own opinion is that, and I saw it move, looked like from 9.5 down to 7.5. Frank, what do you think about the Gators and the Hurricanes on Saturday night?
Now, I was looking at it, and I saw that the line opened up at 6.5, and now it's moved to 7.5. So usually I'm following the money. But Miami's covered 5 in a row versus Florida, and Florida is 4-17 straight up in its last 21 road games. So not so great on the road. Sure, Florida plays good defense, but if you look at the few games they played this year, they're not scoring a lot of points. And Miami beat the hell out of Notre Dame there. Well, not beat them by 3, but surprising win for me. And I see Miami scoring another 30 points at home and another 30-20 game. I like Miami laying the 7.5.
All right, you're going to go ahead and lay the points with Miami. I thought, like I said, that this was probably going to be a 10-point line. I think it was at 9.5, Mike, if I'm not mistaken, just a couple of days ago. Then dropped quickly to 7.5. Stayed there. What do you think about Miami? And I was on a radio show earlier this afternoon in Louisville, and it's not lost on the rest of the country, the Cristobal factor. I said it was worth 3 points. I've adjusted my opinion that the Cristobal factor is a negative 3.5 points for every Hurricane game. So maybe I need to get 10 and a hook in this one or 11. But what do you think about the University of Florida coming to the Hard Rock Stadium, take on the Hurricanes, who are off and rolling, really dominated South Florida in sort of surprising fashion, I thought, and shut us all out, had us 0-3 on the show from last week in that community game. What do you think about this matchup?
Watching a little bit of what I saw last week, Miami looked completely dominant with a better team. I actually got off the game and took Miami at halftime minus the 7 and 121-6 in the second half.
Nice.
You're looking at what you see. The eye test tells me this. They threw 5 interceptions and lost by 10. I got the early push with Florida last week, getting 10 with LSU. The move was Florida all the way down to 7 and saw some 6.5s, which is kind of interesting. Seeing the same thing this week. Billy Napier, the pressure's on. They're calling for his job. I got a sneaky suspicion Florida finds a way to show up here, and I'm going to take the 7.5 and say they're not going to throw 5 picks. The athletes are very similar. Cristobal factor coming in. I think Miami probably wins the game, but I think with game day there and ESPN showing this is the prime time big game of the week, I think Florida tries to do everything they can to save Billy Napier's job, and I think they show up. Whether they win or not is not, but I'm going to take my chances and take 7.5 with Florida.
I've been saying this for some time, that if I had a chance to go back, they always ask you in your high school yearbook what your ambition was. And my ambition would not be to be a sportscaster or anything involved in sports, other than to be a failed college football coach. I think that is the greatest job that you could ever and aspire to. Billy Napier, if he does get canned, gets $23 or $24 million for not having to work anymore, and he still has the opportunity to go out and find another job in the business if that's indeed what he wants to pursue. I'm thinking if Napier gets fired, you also have to let go of the athletic director, because in spite of his success in basketball with the Florida Gators, this appears to be a real bozoic move, extending Napier to the degree that he did and offering him this enormous buyout. So they're in one of those catch-22 situations with Billy Napier. I'm not sure that's enough. I know that there's a lot of incentive there, because the book always was, when Miami plays either Florida or Florida State, the players are largely recruited from the South Florida recruiting base, and they have familiarity with each other. They were rivals in high school, and they're going to just continue and expand on that on the college level. They can't wait to beat the snot out of each other. But if you're just going to go by comparative results, South Florida beating the Gators outright at the Swamp, and then subsequently coming to Hard Rock Stadium and getting cremated by the University of Miami, as an eye-opener for me, and it made me think this line was probably going to be around 10. When it was hovering around 9.5, I thought they were putting this at about the right number, making it a very difficult choice when you add in the added emotion that the Gators might be playing with. But I just don't think the Gators are real good. They're having trouble scoring, surprisingly. Billy Napier is supposed to be this offensive mind. Obviously, when your quarterback's throwing 5 picks, that's going to do some serious damage to your ability to put the ball in the end zone. But I think that's more the norm than it is an aberration. And that when you look at them putting up 10 points against LSU and 16 points, 15 points against South Florida, I don't know that they score that much against this Hurricane team. So I think they might be able to put some defensive pressure on the Hurricanes. I handicapped this game as a 10-point game, somewhere in that neighborhood. So looking at 7.5, I'm going to go ahead and lay the 7.5 and take the University of Miami in that spot. All right, we have a couple of pro games we're going to all handicap and give our opinion on, and then we'll have some electives as well from everybody. Let's go to the Sunday card early on. I guess the Monday night game is one that we're going to take a look at, Ravens and the Lions. But first up, we have the Broncos and the Chargers. Chargers seem to be vastly improved in terms of their approach. with Jim Harbaugh. They're not asking Herbert to do more than he's capable of doing since he's been a little bit more balanced in his offense. You're thinking that that's been more of a winning formula. They're off to a 2-0 start, 2-0 against the spread. They take on a Bronco team that showed some promise last year under Sean Payton. Thought maybe they had found something in Bo Nix. Mike, what do you think about the Broncos and the Chargers? With the Chargers, last line I saw was Chargers are laying 2.5 in that ballgame.
Very interesting start for the Chargers. 3 division games. They go down to Brazil, handle the Chiefs, which looks like a really good win. Now the Chiefs in a little desperate mode, 0-2, get a 2-game lead early on them. Monday night, do what they have to do to get by the Raiders, show that you expose the Raiders' offense for what it is. Chargers playing defense. Jim Harbaugh, physical type coach that wants to run the ball, but yet getting his receivers involved and letting Herbert run and breaking the offense a little more loosely than you would think, not running the football as much. This line at 2.5 kind of interesting. So Denver, a little disappointing in their performance against Tennessee, doesn't get a cover. They also lose in a game they should have won, probably on the board looks like a win. So they played enough to go on the road and beat the Colts. Why is this line 2.5? It should be 4.5. So it kind of makes me lean that, are the Chargers that good? Do they get exposed on the left side now or on the right side with the switching of all to left tackle from right tackle? Is their offensive line going to be able to handle Denver up front? You're going to have an angry Denver team after what happened last week. But I'll tell you, I just love Justin Herbert, and I think he's just a step up. So I'm going to take my chances. Coming off a Monday night win, which I notoriously don't like to do, is bet the team that covers Monday night in years past doesn't really do well on Sunday. But I'm going to go with a rare favorite here, Jeff, and I'm going to take my chance with the Chargers minus 2.5.
Doesn't seem too prohibitive to lay less than a field goal with the Chargers at home, although it's kind of a fluky situation. Or in at SoFi, of course, the home of the Rams primarily, and the Chargers are like the redheaded stepchild, kind of like the Los Angeles Angels were for so many years and still are to the LA Dodgers. Even when they were the California Angels and had really good teams, almost all of the attention in LA spotlight was on the Dodgers. Lakers, Clippers, you could probably say the same thing, no matter what the status of the two teams are. And the Chargers are in that situation where when you watch the games, the other team scores and the entire stadium's going nuts. I don't know if they even have any fans in Los Angeles. But Frank, what do you think? What do you make of this matchup? Broncos, Chargers laying 2.5.
And over-under's 46. I'm thinking Bo Nix has 4 turnovers, and he's been kind of inconsistent the first 2 weeks. And Denver let up 29 points against the Colts. They're supposed to have a good D. The Chargers let up 9 to the Raiders, which was pretty good. The Chargers are at home. They're playing good on both sides of the ball. And Herbert had 5 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks. He's playing very well, and he's had no picks, no turnovers. So I'm going to lay the 2.5 with the Chargers.
We're all in trouble here because that's the way I feel about this ballgame. My God, last time we were in unanimous decision type of category, we all got trounced there.
We got this one, Defo. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm thinking the Chargers are a really good team. Second year of Harbaugh being inserted there. We know that he's extremely efficient as an NFL coach. He doesn't have to worry about all of these cheating allegations and spying on the other team and all of the stuff that afflicted him and was a distraction there when he was coaching at the University of Michigan. He managed to win a national championship with that team with J.J. McCarthy as his quarterback, who looks like he's a complete brick as a pro after – and that, Mike, it's interesting because people always say, oh, well, it'd be a lot better if a guy had a chance to sit out for a year and then learn before they just throw him right into the fire. I think that's total BS. I think a guy learns by playing, and it clearly appears that J.J. McCarthy either wasn't very good to begin with or learned nothing while he was sitting out last year and just observing everything. And it wasn't as if they were waiting for him to round into form or kind of get the gist of what the offense was all about and show signs in practice that he was good. He was out with an injury, and it didn't help him in terms of his education. But Harbaugh clearly can coach, and he can coach quarterbacks. He's done a great job with Herbert, who, in spite of his obvious talent and innate ability to throw the football, probably was being misused in Charger offenses previously. So I feel pretty comfortable going ahead and laying 2.5 points with the Chargers there, in spite of the fact, I don't know, the Denver fans travel? Will they be in Los Angeles?
Do. Oh, they'll be there for sure. Yep.
Yeah, it's going to seem like a home game for the Denver Broncos. And the Broncos, after this hideous loss they suffered with that ridiculous penalty call on the field goal try, probably feeling like they should be ready to go and try and mow somebody down right out of the chute. But I don't know if it's going to happen. I think the Chargers are a good team, vastly
Yeah,
underrated. I'm surprised this spread is so low. Like you said, Mike, I thought
yeah.
maybe 4.5. I'm willing to lay 2.5, and therein lies the problem. But we should have the thing like they do in soap operas where they play that little theme music and they go, "Woo." And you're like, what? All these guys are in agreement on this game, but we all are on this one, and everybody's taking the Chargers, laying 2 and a hook. All right, our other game for the community to go ahead and get involved in here. Ravens and the Lions. Very, very interesting, as they say. Ravens are laying 5.5 in this ball game. Last time I checked, they are at home. The Lions, who were pulverized, really dominated by the Green Bay Packers in week number 1, and you started to think maybe there was some merit to the argument that Dan Campbell was just a figurehead there and that he couldn't succeed without his coordinators. Both his coordinators go on to head coaching positions. We saw it with Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia a couple of years ago. And what happens? You got Ben Johnson trying to salvage some dignity with the Bears already in week number 3, and Aaron Glenn with Frankie's beloved Jet team scratching his head, wondering what the hell happened to him as they got hammered last week. What do you think? How impressed are you with the Ravens, Frankie? And did the Lions eye opener last week, where they win 52-21, something like that? Did that convince you that that point allotment is fairly generous? What do you think?
Uh, well, we're playing in Baltimore, and Harbaugh Monday night record is 15-7 on Monday night. Lamar Jackson has won 5 straight Monday night games. I'm betting a lot of chalk this week, but the Ravens average 141 yards rushing the last 2 games. And Lamar Jackson has 83 yards rushing himself in those 2 games, which is good. So Detroit, they let up 27 points and 21 points. Sure, they came out and beat the Bears and scored 52. But I think the Ravens' offense is too much for them, and I think another team that's going to score 30 points. I'm playing a lot of chalk this week, but I really like the Ravens minus the 5.
All right, Mike's got a vial of milk of magnesia for you to gargle with if you're going to go with all the favorites here on the show. Although, you know what? We're trying to pick winners. It doesn't matter. One team has to win and one team has to lose at a point spread, no matter which side you're on. So let's hope you're right on that. All right, what do you think, Michael? Were you impressed with this rebound by the Detroit Lions?
Yeah.
And look, it's no denigration to have lost to Green Bay. They look pretty good both weeks of the early stages of the NFL season. So losing that game, maybe not being quite ready for it, probably not the worst of situations. Bears were supposed to be on the improve, but they absolutely shellacked them. What do you make of the Ravens and the Lions coming up, getting 5.5 with the Lions?
Well, this is an interesting, again, probably a game that I really looked into, and I thought, why is this line 5.5 the way the Lions played the game, looking at their history? Well, let's go back just 2 years ago. The very rare interconference game, they get a repeat game 2 years prior. And a friend of mine who's a football coach was at the game texting me. He went down from New Jersey to Baltimore to the Lions and at the Ravens and said he has seen the best team in football. He cannot believe how they're destroying them on both sides of the ball, and the Ravens won 38-6. So if you win the last game 2 years ago by 32, and that was after Dan Campbell's first year when Lions had a shot at the playoffs and took out Green Bay at the end of the season, had a chance to get a wild card. They were beaten when the Lions were on the move up. I think if you're a Derrick Henry fumble for everybody talking about the Ravens being the NFL elite team. I just got a sneaky suspicion they put it on Detroit again. I think, they got the Bears, a familiar foe in Ben Johnson. They were able to figure out what they were going to do. The Caleb Williams factor is still struggling. Although we're going to say something a little different in about 10 minutes when I get on the games I'm picking. But I really think that Baltimore's the side here. I think the 5.5 is there. I think what Frankie said, Lamar Jackson, the totals, how he plays, and Harbaugh on Monday nights. There's a lot of big factors into this game that tell me that the Ravens are going to assert themselves on national TV. After last time on national TV, they had the blunder they did in Buffalo. I think the Ravens assert themselves pretty big and win handily.
I don't know. I'm going to go the other way on this one. I know you guys are very confident in Lamar Jackson. He was a local kid here, performed in Palm Beach as a high school player, and what was very well liked by virtually everybody. But nonetheless, I was impressed with that 52-point total. The Bears showed signs of life. They fell apart in the second half in week number one. Caleb Williams sort of reverted back to being who he was the previous season. You're thinking it might take Ben Johnson a while to be a positive influence on him. But when you put up 52 points against anybody in the National Football League, that's impressive to me. I think the Lions just got cold cocked there in game number one against the Green Bay Packers, a team that many may have underestimated. We'll see if they can sustain this into the third week of the NFL season. But getting 5.5 points, nearly a touchdown, I'm inclined to think that Detroit can make a game of this, that it's not going to be a runaway. And so, whether it's a backdoor cover late in the game with a late touchdown, or just one of those games that goes toe to toe that Baltimore has to pull out with a late scoring drive, I'm going to go ahead and take the 5.5 points with the Detroit Lions, and hope to get a little bit lucky in this one. All the signs would point to Baltimore maybe being a better team, but let's not forget. I mean, Detroit was great last year, all throughout the regular season, and decimated by injuries. Some of those guys are back on the roster now and playing again, including Hutchinson. So I'm going to take a shot with the 5.5 points in the Detroit Lions, and hope to come out. Like I said, I may be rooting for a miracle late in the ball game as they get a touchdown with no time left to cover the point spread. But I think that's a pretty generous allotment of points in a game that could easily be even Steven. So we're in disagreement on that one, but I'm going to take a shot with the Lions. All right, let's get into our free selections here. And hopefully you guys can make some money. I know Frank's been studying, man. I can tell by the stats that he's citing that this guy is not ignoring the numerology and is doing an extensive amount of research. So what do you have for us first? What's the first game you want to go with on your
Yeah, I am the math guy. I don't have the gift of gab, but I got the math. All right, Eagles minus 3.5 to the Rams, over under 44.5. The game opened up at 4.5. It's now down to 3.5. And the Rams are a good team, of course, but they're traveling across the country for this one. Eagles have won 8 in a row and 18 of 19. Of those 18 games, 9 of them they have covered by double digits, and 17 of them they have covered by at least 4 points. So anytime the Eagles are like a 3.5 point favorite, I'm on them. So I want to take the Eagles minus 3.5. And honestly, since they're usually always winning by at least 4, I mean, maybe this is the one time I might buy that half a point.
and
pay the extra 20 cents.
There you go. All right, going to go ahead and lay a bit of extra juice out there and get a half a point, push it up to 4. All right, so that's Frank's first elective, taking the Eagles in their matchup and buying it up to 4 points. Mike, I know you've been perusing the entire slate of college games. I mean, you're looking at minuscule matchups. Probably you might even give us FIU or something, but because you're definitely driving to find some kind of bargain. What do you think? What's your first choice for an elective game this week?
Okay, I'm going to dig out a team that I was all over last week and my only winner, and I'm going to go against them this week. So Texas Tech goes into Utah to play probably the game of the week. I love what Texas Tech is doing, scoring a ton of points, haven't really been challenged in their 3 wins. Now they go on the road, and they're only getting 3 points in this spot against Utah at home. Everybody looked at Utah to win the Big 12. I still think Texas Tech has a real shot at winning the Big 12, but this is a game they're going to have to win, and they're going to have to prove it to me. I think the line should be around 6.5, 7. I think it's short at 3. Utah's a more established team. Coaching staff's been there a while. I'm going to take a chance and watch that game at 12 noon, get it out of the way, and they say Utah minus the 3.
All right, taking Utah. I know last week we did both score with Tennessee, and that was good on our elective games. But I also took the advice of a friend of mine who I have great respect for, and we gave out Washington State plus 5.5 in their game against North Texas. I knew nothing about North Texas. I was strictly going by the advice of what I thought was an extremely astute college football handicapper. We not only needed the 5.5, we needed 55.5, and we still would have lost. So we go down 50. Frank, I mean, can you imagine how embarrassing this is? We lost 59-3 in a game that we were taking a dog in, only getting 5.5 points. And as I said, if Mike had come to me and said, "I'll give you another 50 points," I gladly would have taken it and still been on the short end of that thing. So maybe a little bit suspect. And that's why I'm staying out of college football for this week. And my 2 electives, the first one's going to be in the pros, as is the subsequent one. But I'm looking at this game. I don't know. I get the sense from your conversation, Mike Jones, that this may be a game that you're going to be on the other side of, because you sort of hinted something about Caleb Williams maybe being a factor in your handicapping selections. But I haven't seen it with the Bears and Johnson yet. I know they were competitive in the first half of their opener. They really were lost in this last game as they got hammered by the Detroit Lions by 30 points, 31 points. The Bears are laying one against the Cowboys at home. So the Cowboys, I mean, look, did they bounce back? Did they look great against the Giants? No, it looked like they were going to lose the entire ball game. They were being badly outplayed, and then you had that miracle catch by Neighbors that appeared to have the game iced for the New York Giants. But somehow they hung in there and managed to come back. This Aubrey is a hell of a weapon with his 64-yard range, kicking a field goal to go ahead and send the game into overtime. And then, of course, almost automatic. This is a guy who started his career making 35 straight field goals in a game that, at best, if the Bears do prevail, I think it's going to be a tight ball game. I'm more than willing, with the Cowboys going on the road, to take that 1 point and put my money on the Dallas Cowboys getting a point against the Chicago Bears, even though they're traveling to Chicago. I just think they're a better team, and I think they have more firepower. I'm not convinced. Caleb Williams is getting advice about how to do his fingernails from Angel Reese. And if you've ever seen Angel Reese, you don't want her to give you any advice about anything to do with your hands because she is a stone bricklayer. He may as well have had his fingernails done in the style of Florence Griffith Joyner. But that aside, I just don't think he's there yet. And I'm going to go ahead and take a shot with the Cowboys getting a point. Kind of surprising. I thought the Cowboys would be favored in this game on the road. They're getting a point against the Bears. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it has to be proven. And I haven't seen any evidence of that yet. So I'm going to take the Cowboys getting a point against the Chicago Bears as my first free choice, staying away from the college ranks where, as we said, I mean, is there still like a piece of an omelet on my face after that Washington State pick, Frank? How do I look? Do I look okay? I need a cut.
You're looking good, Defo.
All right, thanks. Sorry.
You're not easy now.
All right, second free choice. Frank, we'll start with you. What are you looking at this week?
Definitely the chalk player this week. Bills minus 12 to Miami, over under 49.5. Both teams playing on short rest. It's a Thursday night game. Miami's given up 33 points to the Colts and 33 points to the Patriots. Why the hell wouldn't you think that they're going to let up 33 points to the Buffalo Bills? So the Bills scored 41 to the Ravens, and the Bills scored 30 on the Jets. I think the Bills are going to score another 33-17. And I think Mike McDaniel will be looking for a new job after this game.
I know you're not in South Florida here, but were you at all responsible? Did you have any funding that went to flying that banner over the stadium about firing McDaniel and Chris Greer?
No, sir. I've just been doing a lot of reading,
One of the things that's happening in that ball game, and it's kind of an odd thing. I don't know how much of a factor it is, whether you're taking this into consideration, Mike Jones. But if we're looking at that Thursday night game tomorrow night, Dolphins clearly desperate. But Josh Allen is going to be wearing a visor. I don't know if he broke his nose or what's wrong. He needs some extra protection. He said in a press conference before when he was in college, but never as a pro. Now, you're asking yourself, why would a guy have a visor on when it's going to impair his vision in spite of the risk there? And I don't know. You could put a blindfold, I think, on Josh Allen in this game and give him the last drag of a cigarette. I think he'd still come out on top. But are the Dolphins that bad? They can't be within 12 of the Buffalo Bills? I know that's not necessarily one of your choices, but do you see this maybe with an act of desperation? They've been so flat at the beginning of ball games that I can't imagine they come out to an ice cold start again. The 12 is always a tough number for me to lay double digits. But you were not in agreement there with Frankie G.
Nah, you know what the problem is here? This is a rivalry game. This is probably the Dolphins. If you look back, I know the Jets, the Patriots, all that. But Buffalo they've played playoff games against each other. This is a pretty big rivalry game. And this has got to be the biggest number I think I've seen in this game ever. They're 0-2, desperate team. Buffalo's on their laurels. Just got a sneaky suspicion. This is one of those backdoor situations that if it really gets bad, Frank's got a point. I think if the Bills cover, that means it will look pretty bad. And this point about McDaniel could be very much true. I just don't like laying double digits. And I took it last week. I found a 13.5 with Cleveland against Baltimore and paid for it. And I'm probably going to pay for it this time again. But if I'm betting this, I don't know that I'm laying double digits with a Buffalo team against a division rival a team that can score when their offense is right. If they find a way to protect the Tua, I think they have a chance to cover this game and be very competitive in it. But again, to Frank's point, you just haven't seen anything that makes you want to lay the money. But I don't know that I would take Buffalo in this spot just because of the division rival and a double-digit favorite, but as Buffalo. But believe me, it's not one of my choices. But
Can I add in? I'm sorry.
Yeah, fire away.
Can I add the Buffalo Bills for the first half? They're -7, so that's another way to play it. It was at 7, and moved up to 7.5. But, the Bills are coming out of the gate really strong, and Miami's kind of slacking in the first half. So that's another angle that you could play if you're worrying about the backdoor cover. Mm-hmm. And also, maybe if it goes to 7, if it's at 7.5. So another angle you could do is you could play the team total. Maybe you could take Buffalo over 30 points. Then you don't have to lay that 12. So.
All right. Yeah, good. I love the way this guy's circling back now. All right. So what would be, with the entire spectrum of all the football games that are available over the weekend, and you have one more pick to give, Mike Jones, what would it be?
I'll tell you, I've had a tough time looking at the Kansas City Giant game, but I'm going to go at your game a little bit here. I got a really hardcore look at Dallas both games. I saw them against Philly, and I saw them against the Giants. And what I saw is a defense that looked exposed at the cornerback position, without Bland now being out, and Diggs, it doesn't look like he's 100%. Malik Neighbors went for 167. Wan'Dale Robinson went for 142. You might say as an overall group that maybe Chicago's got better receivers. Now Dallas has to go back on the road. I'm inclined to look at this over 50.5 and jump on it. I think that the DBs in Chicago are going to struggle with the receivers as the Giants did. I think this could be the coming out party for Williams because of Dallas's lack of pass rush. I think there were times that this offensive line is starting to get brought together last week where Williams had a clean pocket to throw out of. I think this over first half and over game would be where I would take this. I think the total will probably be 26.5 in the first half. I see a 20-14 halftime score, maybe Dallas winning, maybe even Chicago winning, and then I think the game goes over. So that would be my big second play, and I like it a lot, over 50.5 in the Bears-Cowboys.
All right, and let's make sure the Cowboys have, at least one, at the worst, one less point than the Bears, and I can come out of this thing on top. We can both win that one.
But to your point now, just take a hard look. I think Dallas actually went off as a favorite right now, -1.
Oh, is that right?
If you got the +1, you did good because you're on the side that everybody's moving the line to. But I see on 3 different locations, Dallas -1.
That had to be startling to a lot of people that the Bears were going to be favored in that ball game. Here's one I'm going to stay on this side of things. Maybe ride this the entire season until they actually prove me wrong. But I think the New Orleans Saints are god awful. They're just horrendous this year. Spencer Rattler at quarterback doesn't impress me at all. They're 0-2 against the spread so far. They haven't really raised a gallop in either of their 2 starts in NFL action to begin the 2025 season. I don't think the Seahawks are any juggernaut, but they looked okay last week in accomplishing their victory. Sam Darnold, look, last year, regular season, he was playing like he was possibly going to be an MVP candidate until he got exposed in the last couple of weeks, and, of course, in a playoff game for throwing those balls high and wide. But he seems to be under control so far this year. I just think the Saints are so putrid, so bad, maybe the worst team in the National Football League, and that's saying a lot. That laying 7.5 with the Seahawks and the Seahawks at home in this game doesn't seem insurmountable to me. For the Seahawks to go ahead and accommodate their backers with a victory and a cover on the spread. And I just sometimes you find a team and you just want to pound it and send it in against them until somehow they find a way to show you that they're actually showing signs of life. You can appreciate that term, Frank. Mm-hmm. Whenever you saw like a handicapper and you'd have the little grid and they had the comments next to it, and you had a horse that hadn't beaten a horse in his lifetime in 20 starts, all of a sudden he runs 11th in a 12-horse field, and the comment would be signs of life as they were trying to handicap his next game. Until we see that from the New Orleans Saints, I'm against them every week, and I'm going to go ahead and lay 7.5 with the Seahawks against the hapless New Orleans Saints as my second elective. So there you have our choices, our official choices here for the competition and for the record. Any other games, Frank? Did you look at anything else? Or I know, Mike, you probably examined the whole slate here and might have more than 50 wagers going by the time you actually go to the post for college and pros. Frank, anything strike your fancy here that we didn't allude to yet?
No, that's 5, man. That's a lot of games for me. I mean, I was looking at that Ravens-Detroit game, and I know that's the highest over-under on the board at 51.5. I was leaning towards over, but I don't like to bet those overs as much, so I'm gonna just lay off that.
You're the Undertaker. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, you know.
Unbelievable. I mean, the first week was all you, and then the second week, as I said, the overs were pretty prevalent and ended up dominating. Mike, I know you probably have a couple of others that you looked at. What struck your fancy this week?
Well, I think you're onto something, Jeff, with Seattle. I think Spencer Rattler going on the road to play in probably the toughest road stadium. Probably won't be able to hear his cell signals.
Yeah.
Seattle gets a little momentum drive after losing the 49ers with a huge win at Pittsburgh, which probably none of their fan base thought they weren't going to get off to weren't going to win and get off to an 0-2 start. I'm with you. I think 7.5 might be even a short line. I think first half bet minus 4.5 might be a way to go also in this game. I think Seattle wins this game going away. And I also think it will be the number one pick in Circa Survivor pool as the big wins. And right now we see that the Circa Survivor is at full tilt. I think only less than 1,000 people have lost. I'm not sure the exact number. I know it was less than 500 week one. We haven't seen that big upset. So if I were to look at a potential upset, I don't see it here with the with Seattle. I think I agree there. And also, I kind of think Houston bounces back after their bad win. They're going to Jacksonville. They're getting 2 points now. They look like they've been exposed. Jacksonville's got some good edge guys, but I don't know if they come with a lot of pressure. I think the pressure is going to be on Houston, another desperate 0-2 team. I think I think Houston might be a side now down in Jacksonville just to take a hard look at. Is C.J. Stroud that player? Who goes 0-3 at this point? If they do, pressure is going to be on. What they're going to do, they're going to make a move. And again, I'm going to also look at the night game, the nationally televised game. A desperate Kansas City team comes in laying 6 to the Giants. Did we find something offensively this week? I don't know. Do we cause some problems? If we can find a way to protect this pass rush that Kansas City will bring in with Chris Jones and Karlaftis and their front four, I like Kansas City's front seven. Last week it looked like they were a little beaten team mentally. It seemed like Mahomes missed a couple open receivers. I thought his running ability when he tried to run was a little bit more of him trying to take the ball into his own hands. Maybe the Giants get sharp up, and step up and give them a game. I also think that, Kansas City might be looking ahead. They got Baltimore coming into town next week. I know it's a game you can't look ahead at 0-2. God forbid the Giants pop them and go to 0-3, then they got a chance to go 0-4. It'll be the cause of a big rise in everybody going, what the hell's going on in Kansas City? But for the Chief fans, we'll say this. Does the league want Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce to go 0-3 and lose all this 5 they got? They need Kansas City in the mix. So gun to my head, I would say Kansas City money line. I think maybe the Giants might hang in there after what we discovered last week offensively. Could be an exciting game. I think it's going to be a lot better than people think. 2 0-2 teams going on national television on Sunday. I'll just say go blue, and I'm taking my Giants +6.
All right, you're going to grab the points with the Giants. That turned out to be profitable, even though they ended up losing the ball game outright. And just a devastating defeat in overtime. It looked like they had everything going their way. I keep hearing Burgess Meredith in my head as Mick in the Rocky movies. Women weaken legs. And I don't know, Frank. You're watching Kelce drop a pass that turns into an interception that clearly was a critical juncture in the ball game and probably cost the Chiefs that one. If you analyze one given play, that might have been the turning point, and that certainly loomed as that. I'm not sure what to make of the Chiefs this year. They're without. I'm not sure what the status of Worthy is, but I usually go by the thing. Unless a guy is listed as deceased, he's probably playing. So if he's back, maybe that'll help the cause. Rashee Rice is suspended for 6 games, so still has to sit out 4 more. Chiefs kind of compromised. I might be on your side. Rooting for your G-men once again. It was miraculous that they were winning that ball game late, only to come back and lose it. So maybe they did find a little bit of a spark. What do you guys make of the Indianapolis Colts? They're 2-0 against the spread. Got really lucky, as we said, against the Denver Broncos with that call on the missed field goal try at the end of the ball game from 64. They take on the Titans on the road. I know you're very familiar, Mike, with Daniel Jones and his work. What was it? Just the offensive line that was holding this guy back when he was with the G-men, or has this guy suddenly found some kind of a spark and ignited the possibility that maybe he won't be among the all-time first-round quarterback busts in NFL history?
Well, the Colts have had one of the top offensive lines for a while. Quentin Nelson is a perennial Pro Bowler, borderline Hall of Famer. Maybe Quentin Nelson grabbed him and said, here's what we think we can do. We can protect you, all that. Daniel Jones made a comment on Hard Knocks last year that coming back from that knee injury was one of the hardest things he ever had to do in sports. And I think when he lost his left tackle, he played really poorly early on, but he started to play better. And then Andrew Thomas got hurt in the Cincinnati game, and all of a sudden you could see mentally he looked like he was derailed, making mistakes, not making proper decisions. Everybody says sometimes you get out of one bad situation, you get a clean slate, you try something different. He goes to Minnesota. Minnesota probably wishes they kept him now with the J.J. McCarthy situation. And now he goes over to Indianapolis and he gets the starting job and he's playing well. Yeah, he caught a break with a penalty last year, else he'd be 1-1. Here's the point. He's going on the road for the first time, going up against a really good front in Tennessee. Tennessee's getting 3.5 at home. I think that line might be a little steep, but Daniel Jones can play. And I always thought if you gave him time to throw, he took us to the playoffs in 22, team coming off a coaching change and all that. I just think his confidence left him with the ability of the Giants not to be able to protect him. And he's getting the protection out there, and he's got a good core of receivers, which I think the Giants eventually provided for him. He's got a top-notch back, which you have like Barkley and Jonathan Taylor. And their defense plays okay. I just think it's a fresh start, and I think they look okay. I mean, I would have bet under 7.5 to start the season and look like a loser because I see what they're trying to do. But let me tell you something. Houston gets beat by Jacksonville, and the Colts end up winning this game in 2 division games that can be interesting to watch. They have a 3-game lead over the perennial division champion. It's going to come down to those 2 games when they play it, and I think they get a really big jump. If they're going to get Jacksonville either goes 2-1 or both teams go to 1-2. If they win this week, they got a 2-game lead in the division off second. 3 games into the season. Why not take a chance with the Colts laying the 3.5? And I think maybe I would take an outside shot just because of my luck as a Giant fan. Daniel Jones for MVP. Take it at 400-1 and take it now. It might be a hard way, but I'll tell you, if they get a run and make a run at it, why can't it? If they go out and go 13-4, and all of a sudden they're playing well, it's going to be that the quarterback play has done it. So if you're looking for an outside crazy bet and you can find it on DraftKings or FanDuel, why not take Daniel Jones for MVP? I heard it once before. Someone said offensive player of the year or something. I'm going to go all the way and say, why not grab it? If they get hot, who the heck knows?
I looked at the season before it got underway, and I would have said the Colts at best a 9-win team, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 or 8. That's where I would have gone with them. They're off to a 2-0 start. Jones second in the league in passing yardage. Taylor's leading the league in rushing right now. I think their tight end also is the leader among tight ends and receiving yardage. So been a bit of a surprise. We have a good friend there, actually, and the Bleacher Brothers fans are familiar with this guy. He was the head coach at FAU a few years back, Charlie Partridge. He preceded Lane Kiffin and then a series of other failures that they had at the head coaching position. He's now the defensive line coach with the Colts. And he was pretty high on their prospects before the season started. So he might have been alone in that, but they certainly have surprised a lot of people. I guess the other team that I might take a position against because his play has been so horrific, we became enamored with J.J. McCarthy when he rallied his club for 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter of the opening week. And you thought, oh, wow, okay, the guy woke up from the dead there after 3 quarters of looking like a complete loser. But he put together 4 quarters of looking like a complete loser this past week. I don't know. Would you be inclined, Frank, to go against the Vikings until they proved otherwise? Because it really looks like, they have made huge mistakes at the quarterback position, including putting this guy in as the starter and letting go Darnold. And did they have Daniel Jones on their roster for a little while also? I think they did. And the fans are starting to really stick it to him over the fact that they went with McCarthy.
Well, the Vikings were my best bet last week, and I kind of went all in on them, and all my profits went dwindling after that. I had them on.
It had to be fun to watch.
And money line after drinking a bunch of Jamesons.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Falcon defense played really good. I wasn't expecting that. I didn't think they were going to be able to stop the run at all, and they made me look really bad and dumb. But at least I got 3 wins this week, so that was a bonus, buddy.
Andy Byer had a great line, opening line, maybe one of the great opening lines of any book when he said, "Women and gambling don't mix," and it may be true about alcohol and gambling. Just ask Leonard Toews.
Get your bets in early.
That's for sure. All right, I got one for you, Mike, to conclude things. We talked a lot of football here on the show, as we always will, but I had a hideous how many times you handicap horses, Frank? How many times have you been absolutely right about everything you thought about a race and still lost? it's not uncommon where racing luck comes into play, or a jockey makes a stupid move, or something odd happens, gets compromised, blocked in the stretch, and you had all the right logic going into an event and ended up on the losing side. This happened to me last night with the Dodgers game against the Philadelphia Phillies, Mike. As I thought, well, the Dodgers in a dogfight with the Padres. Padres were playing on the road against the New York Mets. They had already lost, so that was an even bigger enhancement. Phillies had just clinched the National League East, so even though they were throwing Sanchez out there on the mound to go against Ohtani, Ohtani's been showing really sharp performances the last few times he's been out, after starting out looking like maybe this Tommy John has left his elbow looking like shredded wheat. He's come on strongly, much like you were talking about Kershaw early in the year. And so Ohtani throws a no-hitter for 5 innings. And then the bullpen comes in. They bring in a guy named Hrabowski, not Al Hrabowski, but Justin Hrabowski. He immediately coughs up the lead, 5 runs. You get the call from the governor as the Dodgers are down 6-4. Ohtani himself is part of it as he hits a home run. 8th inning, it's 6-6. And then you get beaten in the 9th inning on a 3-run homer. And you're thinking, everything I thought about this game went the way that I thought it was going to. But maybe we have to knock it down and not go over 5 innings anytime you're matching up some stuff.
Yeah, and here's the other thing: you intentionally walk to get to that hitter. You walk the guy on first base. They walked the big slot to get to Vermin. I mean, to get to Urshana, and he hits a home run. I mean, let me tell you, I went to bed having Philly at 4-0. I said, "Up, let's see you later."
Couldn't have been
I woke up, checked the scoreboard, see 9-6. I'm like, "What the heck happened?" You know. So yeah, the thing with the Phillies is you're getting a really hot team that's got great bats with a dog right now. Again tonight, Blake Snell going up against I think Luzardo, 2 lefties, and you got to think the Dodgers got to come out with Snell only laying 140. They're probably a good bet tonight if I could throw a baseball game in here. Do the Dodgers get to go down 3 straight to Philly? I don't know, but yeah, yesterday was concerning for the Dodgers, and their pen has been tough. I go back to the Yamamoto no hitter going into the 9th inning and then blowing a 3-0 lead with a no hitter. I mean, I don't think that's ever happened in history of a game where you're down 2 outs at the bottom of the 9th with nobody on, and you lose 4-3 in regulation. So Dodgers got some pen issues, and I think they got a lot to address. It looks like they're going to get the Mets in the first round of the playoffs, which should be a very interesting first round matchup. But Philly's my team now. I was on Milwaukee. I gave it out on the other shows early on, but boy, I'll tell you, Philly's going to be really tough out.
All right. It was a tough out for me, that's for sure. I had to knock myself out after that loss. All right, Frankie, good stuff this week. Mike Jones, always a pleasure, my friend. And everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. Blockbuster programming today. It's the big Wednesday on the Bleacher Brothers, so stay right with us. We'll be going all the way through, I believe, until 10 o'clock at night with a variety of great shows. For Frank G., Mike Jones, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.